Today, I'm absolutely thrilled and excited. We have a very special guest, my mentor, my teacher, I've learned so very much from. And today we have Jim Ingersoll. Welcome, Jim.
There we go. That's better. It's the same. I learn from you every day. You got a great community here. So thanks for teaching people all about land.
I appreciate it. Jim invited me to speak at his conference back in March, and it was the first time I got up in front of 250 people. And today, Jim's going to share about wrap mortgages and how it can help us in our land business. But I also want to give Jim an opportunity. He has an amazing community on his Facebook group and his inner circle group as well, but also share the love, a charity that Jim has. And I just want to give him an opportunity to share about the groups and share the love, but also share about wrap mortgages.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's awesome to be with your amazing community. And in case you guys are wondering what this is, I had shoulder surgery a couple weeks ago. I had rotator cuff, torn tendon, and frayed bicep, whatever it is. It wasn't fun. It's not fun, but this isn't like a fashion piece. It's just a necessity for a while. So it's great to be with you. Let's talk a little bit about financing land, Michael.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate that. And whatever you can share with us.
Okay.
Wrap mortgages, maybe the seller's financing, and we're selling it on seller financing, but maybe the overall structure.
Okay. And we may need to do this like on a whiteboard. So let me know. But let's talk about that because I know your model is flipping cheap land a lot, right? Because you'll buy a lot for 9 to 15,000 and sell it for 25 or 30,000, right?
Correct.
And you'll have it sold before you even buy it or know that it's going to sell within 48 hours. How many people love that model that Michael does so well? It's a great model.
Thank you.
But you know what? Land sometimes will come at you in bigger tracts. Has anybody done larger tracts that are a lot more expensive? Anybody? Okay. Michael, thank you. Where are you at, Michael? And what did you buy?
I live in Las Vegas. We've bought something like 50 properties so far this year. So they've ranged anywhere from 5,000 to just under 100K on the purchase price.
All right. So I want to talk about financing larger purchases. There's a couple ways that are pretty easy to do it. One is you could use hard money, but more likely you're going to use like a private money loan. I have lent money on 3 land deals this year, Michael, as a private money lender. Okay. So I know occasionally how it's worked, at least on me, like with transactional funding. So the first one was in Williamsburg, Virginia, and a guy had put some acreage under contract and he sold it to the power company of all things. But then the power company wanted to do extra due diligence and he needed like 90 days to close. I don't know, it was maybe 60 days. So I loaned on that one. And then a friend of mine put some land under contract in a rural county in New Kent, Virginia. And that was like, I think he paid $90,000 for this acreage. So land does get expensive sometimes. And he resold it for 140. It was a good profit, whatever it was. But he needed 2 weeks of transactional funding because the guy he sold it to wasn't paying cash. He was getting a loan from a bank to build a house. He was using his IRA, his 401k as the down payment. So all of that just took a few weeks to get closed. And because he was selling it on a bank loan, he couldn't do an assignment or anything like that because he didn't have title. So he actually had to take title before he could close. So I helped out on that one. And then I've got a third one right now that somebody paid $30,000 for a couple acres and he resold it for 80, but he just needed a little time. So I just use that as an example. If you get in sort of a pinch and you need a little bit of time, you could connect with a private money lender. But Michael wants to talk about wraps, which I love. So the key is always going to be the motivation of the seller. That's why he loves to find land that's going to tax sale and things like that. And what do these sellers typically owe on their land that have owned it 10 to 20 years? Do they owe a lot of money or do they owe nothing?
Nothing,
right?
Our typical land deals, and one reason I like the niche is most of the time they own the property free and clear.
Okay. And I love that too. So if you're going to do a little bit larger land deal, or you need to actually own it for a little bit period of time, whether you're going to develop it yourself or whatever you're going to do with it, resell it, but you need a little time, is you can get the seller to be your bank. How many of you on Zoom today have done seller financing with a motivated seller? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, good. Scott, did you do it on a land deal or on a house?
House.
Okay, tell us how it worked on the house you bought, if you don't mind.
I'd say one of the first deals I did, the guy was in foreclosure. I just came in and told him I'd bring the payments current and just took it over subject to, and then sold it on a wrap.
Okay, good. Jerry Ricci, I see you're on here. You're a friend of mine. Have you've done some seller finance deals, haven't you? You and Sam and all your wonderful family?
Yeah, I've done a number of them. I've got probably a dozen where the seller has completely financed their share. A lot of the properties were free and clear, so we got them some money now and then started payments anywhere from 6 months to 5 years down the road where they would get other payments. And then I've done also where we give them a few $1,000s to move in monthly payments until it's paid off. We've done them a number of times.
It works good, doesn't it? You've done that in Pennsylvania and in Florida now, right?
Correct.
Love it. Okay. So the key is always, there's a couple of keys to doing these deals. Number one is motivation of the seller. Typically, land sellers are very motivated. They own land, they're just paying taxes on it. They might have code violations for high grass or whatever else too. And then number two is they really don't owe any money on the property. If you hit those two boxes, there's a good chance you should be able to get some seller financing. Or maybe you term it installment sale. And then if you use the word installment sale, you can reference back to the IRS code. I think it's 121, because that's how the IRS terms it. And if you use the IRS terminology, then it adds credibility to what you're doing. The way I would do it is, I love Jerry's idea, because did you notice when his first payment was due? He says 60, 90 days later. So that's a nice thing. You can't do that if you're working with a bank. So let's say it's a $100,000 parcel of land. And you know what else is neat about doing wraps, Michael, is you can stay in the deal longer, which I like. So it's land flipping is great. It's incredible income streams. But what if you could add an element to that also included a monthly cash flow stream for a while? So you could actually get paid 3 times instead of 1. Would you guys be open to that idea?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's just talk through it. Let's say you're going to buy I just make all this up as I go here, Michael. Let's say you're going to buy it for $100,000 and you negotiate with the seller and they will do $5,000 down and finance the other $95,000. Now, what interest rate are you going to pay? I would consider trying to get as low of an interest rate as you can. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
So who's got a calculator? Jerry, I'm sure you've got one. Who's got a calculator with you? What's 95,000 divided by 200?
475.
Okay, so one of the offers, thank you. Was that you, Sam? All right.
It is.
I love it. So one of the offers I would make is, okay, you want $100,000. I'm going to give you $5,000 at closing. And the remainder of the purchase, I'll make you 200 payments of $475 a month. Who would like that deal as a land investor? Do you like that? Okay. What's the interest rate? 0. Did you catch that? I think on land deals, you should be able to get 0 to 4% all the time, because the seller has a negative cash flow. They're just paying taxes every year or not paying them. And that's why they need some help. So you give them a little bit of a down payment and then come up with something that you think would work, like 200 payments, $475 a month. If they ask you what the tax or what the interest rate is, just tell them the truth. You're not 100% sure, but you built it into your monthly payment and the price they want. It's like you want to give them what they want, which is the 100,000. Then they've got to give you what you want, which is wholesale terms. I always say I want wholesale price or I want wholesale terms. You guys agree? You got to have the two.
Basically, if we're talking to them and say, if I give you the price that you want,
There you go.
can you work with me on the terms?
There you go. I like that. You guys like that? Okay, so now let's say they accepted that, but in reality, you might have to give them 4% interest and whatever those numbers work out to. A low down payment and then a monthly payment from there forward. By the way, this works really well in like a self-directed IRA. Do you guys use IRAs? Have you learned about self-directed IRAs? You should. They're very powerful tax weapons and allows you to build your wealth tax-free, which accumulates a lot quicker. All right, so now you've got the land and you've got a contract to purchase that land, $100,000, 5% down, 200 payments at $475 a month. Now you could still flip the land if you have buyers at 150. I would encourage you, when you do get seller financing, consider staying in the deal a little longer. And this is where the wrap comes into play, okay? Because what you can do is then sell the land to somebody else, like a builder, and who may need, say, 12 months to build a house. And you can offer them seller financing. Michael, do you think if you could offer seller financing to your buyers, you could get a little bit more money for the deal?
Yeah, you may have someone that might not qualify for a traditional mortgage, a penalty box buyer.
Yeah.
And you can maybe advertise it, private financing for a deserving buyer with a large down payment.
Oh, he's always got that marketing mind. Have you guys noticed that about Michael? That's why I love hanging out with him. Love it. Okay, so let's say you turn around, you advertise it on Facebook Marketplace with the exact description he just used, and you find a buyer at 150. Okay, but now you're going to finance it, and you're going to finance it on what's called a wrap mortgage. Okay, which is just going to wrap around the first. So and if you have questions, just unmute and ask me. But let's say you sell it for 150, and instead, I'm sorry, maybe they're talking to somebody else. Let's say instead of 150, instead of a $5,000 down payment, let's say you got 20,000 down. Do you think that's reasonable, Michael?
Yeah, I think typically between 12 to 20% down.
Okay, so let's say it's 150, and you're going to get a $20,000 down payment. And instead of selling it at 0% interest, why don't you sell it at 8 or 9% interest? Do you think that's reasonable, Michael?
If traditional financing is going to be on vacant land, 7 or 8%, I think if you have a penalty.
Let's go 10. Let's go 10%.
Yeah,
okay?
10, yeah, 9.5, 10%.
So Jerry, do you have a financial calculator or a mortgage calculator or somebody to do this? Because
We do. I'm driving, but Sam's wired here. She's ready to go.
all right, be careful, Jerry. These are mine a long time. All right, 150 with 20,000 down means, Sam, $130,000. To make it easy, you could do interest only too. So $130,000, 10% interest only is a little over $1,000 a month. I've got my numbers basically, but you can tell me, Sam, quickly. What would that be? I could pull it up on my calculator, my phone. All right, so let's say it's 130 times 0.1 is 10%. It's 13,000 a year. $1,083.33. You guys see that on my calculator? Oh, this is a new video format here for me, Michael, showing my phone.
Got it. Very good.
I kind of like it. All right. And then, so I said you're going to collect a $20,000 down payment. How much did you give the seller on the down payment?
5,000.
So at closing, you're going to get the difference roughly minus some closing costs. So you'll walk away with, say, $13,000 or whatever it is. So at closing, I said you're going to get three payments out of this thing, right? Number one is at closing, the difference between the down payment that you buy at and the down payment you sell at. So that'll be a net of whatever comes out of 15,000, 20 minus 5. And then how much do you make every month that this loan's in place? It's 1,083 minus the 475.
608.
608.33. So do you call that a nice cash flow stream?
And that could be for 12 months, or depending what type of buyer you had, it could be for an extended period of time.
It could be. It could be. Let's say it's for 24 months. That's another $15,000 you made, not as being a land flipper, but by being a land bank. You're now you're being like the land loan officer by staying in the deal. And then you get to the end and there's a third payoff, which is someday when they pay you back, like when they refi the whole deal or however they're going to get you paid back in the future. And that's the difference between the original 150 and the 100 minus, of course, interest. Of course, it's interest only. So you might get another $40,000 or $45,000 at the end. So that's 15,000, say at the beginning. Was it 600 a month roughly, Michael, in cash flow?
600 a month.
Okay, $600 a month. And then the difference between your balances, it might be another 40,000 or more at the end. So you get 3 paydays instead of 1 is my point. I've done this on single families, duplexes. I've done it on multifamily. You can do it on land. You can do it on self-storage car washes or literally anything you want.
From what I understand, for a typical house flipper, they want to buy it at 70 cents on the dollar. So the house is worth 100,000. They want to buy for 70, and you have your 4 competitors all offering 69, 71, 72. In theory, we could offer maybe 90 or 95. We can offer more on the price if we get the terms.
Yeah, just say, we all know everyone focuses only on price. They want wholesale price, ARV times 0.7 minus your repairs. If it doesn't hit that, you leave with your tail between your legs. But what if you could operate in your local market where you could give the seller the price they want if they gave you the terms that you want? And there's a lot of different ways to structure it. That was just one. I like that one because it was 0 interest. But let's say you wanted to stay in a lot for a while and you're buying the lot for a little less. Say it was $80,000. No, let's say it's a cheap lot like you do, Michael. Let's say it's a $10,000 lot, but you don't want to just flip it for the quick money. You could also offer them 2 payments. I've done this one before too on houses, Michael, which is I'm going to pay you half of the price up front, 10,000, and then I'm going to pay you the other 10,000 in 3 years or 5 years. Okay. And then you could wrap that if you want, and you're going to have a nice down payment, monthly payment. What's your interest rate on that one when you give half now and half in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years?
And the $10,000 you give in 3 years, not to get too.
You don't have I know it's a large down payment, but you don't have any monthly payments at all. So whatever you can sell it for on the wrap is all profit, which is really nice.
And that $10,000 in 3 years, you're paying with cheaper dollars.
So I don't know how much more detail you want to go into on all of that, Michael, but I just want to encourage you guys, when you do all the background research that Michael teaches you, so that the buyer's credit, the seller's credit score, how old their car is, and all these factors that lead to motivation, but you also know they owe nothing on that house and they have no options, then maybe you could create a monthly cash flow for them while creating a little bit better deal for yourself as well.
So instead of just keep flipping and we're doing the next deal and the next deal and the next deal, we can do the flipping, but we can also build up an income stream. And basically what we become is the bank.
You become a land bank.
We're getting the spread between the down payment we're paying and the down payment we're receiving, which is more, and the spread between the interest rates. So if you had 4% on $100,000 versus 10% on $100,000, 6% a year, that's $6,000 in additional profit from being the bank.
Yep, that's right. So learn to use your financial calculator. Hey, Sam Ricci has been doing a really good job posting on Invest in Debt by Jimmy Napier. It's an amazing book. I usually read that book once a year. And by the way, he's from Pensacola, right? I got to meet him one time. But Sam, you've been making all these posts. You should put that into Michael's group as well. My group too. I love it. Because it makes you think about all that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think that information is extremely helpful. And also, instead of necessarily looking for the $10,000 properties, we can go after a lot more expensive properties. Hey, like Jim spoke on the $100,000 one, put $5,000 down, and we're paying $475 a month, and sell it with $15,000 down or $20,000 down and putting $15,000 in our pocket. But also the difference between the payment that we're making to the seller and the payment that we're receiving, which I think was $608. So we can control much larger properties and get the spread on that interest that's going to create an income stream for us as well.
And this is when you go into those more expensive ones, you got to make sure your due diligence is set. Let's say you did it for a $300,000 parcel, Michael, where somebody else is going to do the heavy lifting of subdividing and developing the land. You flip the land to a developer, which, by the way, takes time. How long would it take to develop land? I don't know. It takes a while. So if you could offer terms while they divide and subdivide, that'd be very advantageous to them as well, because that's not easily financeable land either.
Yeah. By the time they go through the process and get the entitlements and get the process done, depending on the scope of the project, probably a couple of years.
And that's perfect for this, by the way, I think.
I've got a financial calculator, but if you were making a 5% spread on $300,000 over a couple of years, and that's recurring monthly revenue, plus you're going to get a larger down payment than you're paying, it turns into multiple income streams.
It does. At least three. And by the way, you can do that deal in a self-directed IRA and not pay any taxes on it. Does anybody like the idea of paying less taxes?
Yeah, there may be potentially a couple other benefits. From what I understand, when a seller sells a property on seller financing and they have a note and you're paying them on the note, the way that they get taxed, there's a tax benefit to the seller too, without getting.
Well, that's why I referenced the IRS, because the IRS talks about that. Yes, and it's an installment sale. So I'm not the CPA. I always reference your CPA, but they should pay tax on the money they receive, not what's on the settlement statement. Sharon, you had a question?
Sorry, I had to get. I sure do. Maybe I'm just overthinking this, but so if you have, say, for example, the 200 payments in the first part of the opportunity, and then the second part, say it's 12 months, is the goal to have the person that's part of the wrap, the buyer, to refi out or to pay off the initial loan?
You can't have the wrap shorter than the original. So that's a good point. You could do 20 years with a balloon due in 24 months. So you're not overthinking it. I'm glad you're thinking.
So the balloon would be reflecting the payoff. Okay.
Guys, I made that case study up as I went. So
let's say we got seller financing from a mom and pop, not a professional builder.
perfect. That's the best place to get it.
Seller was a mom and pop and they're carrying a $95,000 note and we're paying them $475 a month.
All right.
You think that we could potentially put in our agreement with them, should they decide to sell the note, we get first right of refusal?
Absolutely.
So then if they may need additional money, they could sell that whole $95,000 note, but I'm not going to give them $95,000. Or let's just say they need $10,000. They can sell a small portion, the first 12 months of that note, for $10,000. But if I wouldn't pay them $10,000, I might pay them $7,000. But what typically happens then, they keep coming back. So the property they finance for $95,000, you can keep buying portions of that note at a substantial discount.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people will take, instead of, let's say we're almost the end of the year, let's say we get into December and you go back to the seller and say, instead of making 12 payments in 2025, how about if I paid you 10 payments up front in January instead of getting them once a month? There's a lot of people that take that offer. And that is a giant return. It's called the 10 for 12. And then let's say you've been paying on it a few years and you approach the seller and say, I've got a little extra cash right now. I'm thinking about paying this off. Would you consider a discounted payoff? Most of them will. I know, I've done it. And by the way, we haven't talked about substitution of collateral and moving the mortgage. This goes pretty deep if you keep going. It's quite a hole.
I think that gives us an initial overview of wraps, and just we can think a little more creatively. I'm going through some additional training, which I'm going to share with the teammates on these exact situations. But we can become the bank. And Jim said, we don't get paid one time, and we're not competing with the other flippers that are doing the same thing. We can many times offer more than they can because we can go ahead and get terms, and we can make a lot of money on the terms as well.
There you go. That's how it works.
Anybody have any additional questions for Jim?
Hi, Jim. I'm Amar. Forgive me. I just joined in the call. I may have missed this question. So
Right.
apologies if you have to repeat this again. But what are the tax implications if I am the seller and accepting these payments over a longer period of time? Is it a monthly thing that accrues, or is it a
Double check with your CPA, but you can Google it as well. Just Google IRS installment sale somebody. I think it's 121, but I can't remember. And it'll tell you in there, but double check. It should be, instead of paying, let's say their basis on the property was $10,000 25 years ago, and they're going to sell it to you for $40,000 today. They're not going to pay capital gains on the $35,000 difference. They're going to pay it on the amount they receive every year. So it's really a large benefit to the seller.
huge benefit to the seller? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of people don't sell because they're worried about having to pay capital gains taxes.
So the way you could approach them is if I can give you close to what you want for the property, and if you can work with me on terms, and I can structure it in a way that may help you with your taxes, can we have a discussion?
Right.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
And really what you end up doing, instead of the house flippers that are offering 70%, and assuming it was a house, we could offer a lot more because we became the bank, and we're going to make those monthly, we're going to get some cash up front if we resell it and get a larger down payment, but we're going to get those monthly payments. And I can go ahead, if the other people are all offering 70,000, I could offer 90 or 95,000, because when I resell it, I'm going to get a larger down payment. So I'm going to put money in my pocket. And then also I'm going to get the spread between what I'm paying and what I'm receiving.
I think about the difference from anyone else trying to flip land in your market. Nobody's providing terms. So it's a big competitive advantage. You should be able to sell it for more.
So what happens if you go to sell it and the buyer just wants to pay it off
Let them take the cash.
before you're without the interest before your
Yeah,
term
maybe they
is?
don't want financing. If the numbers work, then it's up to you. I kind of like the idea. When I have financing, it's like a Christmas gift. So I don't necessarily want to throw it away, especially if it's a 0% interest. I may find a different buyer.
And again, just to revisit, if we're going to go ahead and sell it, we don't want to get a minimal down payment and then they go ahead and they default on us. So we want to have private financing for a deserving buyer with a large down payment, and we'd want to qualify them like a traditional. You want to paper it right to qualify them like a traditional mortgage.
Yep. You want them to have skin in the game. Plus, that's your first payday.
Have a prepayment penalty or whatever in the contract?
Good idea. I like the way you're thinking, Melanie. It's good stuff.
Anybody else have any questions?
Think outside the box. I like it.
I have one more question. In regards to what Melanie was alluding to with if the buyer wants to pay to purchase the property before the wrap terms are up, how do you then, so you don't back yourself in a hole, address the tax implications to the seller to where then it still doesn't hurt them?
It is what it is at some point. They're going to be
Right.
happy they get paid off early. Most of them are.
And then just point it back to their accountant at that point?
Yeah. And Sharon, it's like Leon talks about multiple bites out of the apple.
Right.
That's what all that is.
Jim, do you have anyone that you recommend to make sure that it's papered correctly? Jeff Watson or?
I use Jeff for all of my private money loans, but you do need your legal team for all of our transactions, whether it's title work or closings or loan docs, all of it's very important. So add that person carefully. Don't do it on LegalZoom.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else?
What was the name of that person again that you said you use?
Jeff Watson, he does my private money lending. I don't know if he would do this, but he may. You have to ask him.
Jeff, he's highly regarded, works with many people in the industry, and that's who I'd recommend as well. Unless anyone else has any questions, Jim, can you share a little bit about Share the Love?
Okay. Share the Love is an amazing organization that I got involved with a couple of years ago. And what they do is we provide wheelchairs around the world, primarily in third world countries, to people that don't have access to one. What we do is we raise money And we do it a lot at real estate events like Dealmaker, Michael. We raised $156,000.
No, that was amazing.
Then we had a corporate match, so it ended up 300,000.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing. And then we buy wheelchairs in containers, we ship them around the world, and we go and we also distribute them. If you've never been on like a humanitarian trip, I would recommend you give it a shot. It will change your life. I absolutely guarantee it. Cheryl and I went to Nicaragua last year. We're going back again in a few weeks next month, providing this is all okay at the end of October. But they also spent a month in Africa this year. They're going to the Philippines, I think, in February. They go to Ecuador. They go to the parts of the Caribbean. They go to Mexico all the time. Just third world countries where people have nothing and have a huge need. I was just thinking, Michael, because we work with another group that provides reading glasses, and they're in Guatemala this week. Just think about it, such a basic thing. Like I contribute these reading glasses, they cost $1 each, and they take a couple thousand of them to like Guatemala and they just give them away. But the wheelchair is similar too, because people show up and they have one leg typically, or cerebral palsy, or tons with children. And I don't know about you guys, but I had never worked with handicap in my life till last year. But now the impact that it made is long lasting and will continue on, because it's pretty amazing what happens when you give somebody with nothing and no social safety net, with a government that doesn't provide anything for their citizens. To give them something with no ability to pay you back is a beautiful thing.
And these are people that family members have been carrying them around, or they've been.
They walk on their knuckles.
Yeah. Is there a Facebook group that people can visit?
Yeah, I'll get that for you. It's really good. And I love being part of this group. Planning to go back.
And I think you probably receive as much as you give.
I receive way more than I give. I always tell people, you were at Dealmaker, so maybe you remember it, but so much of real estate can become greed and ego driven. They always say, get rid of your ego, get rid of your greed, and you're going to find way more happiness. And the more you give, the more you're going to receive anyways, because you can't outgive God, and you can't outgive the humanitarian effort like this either. You just can't. Live a life with purpose and impact, and live a life based on giving, and you will receive way more than you get. That's what Zig Ziglar said. That's where I first heard it, Michael. If you help enough other people get what they want, you'll have everything that you want. Isn't that the story of your life as well, as you help all of us invest in land?
We get caught up in our worlds here and sometimes forget how very fortunate we are.
Yeah. So jump in our Facebook group. Maybe you want to come to Nicaragua with us, or maybe you want to go to the Philippines, Mexico, or somewhere else. We call them humanitarian adventures. It's very emotional to give people wheelchairs and pick people up, literally pick them up and get into your wheelchair. Jay Mora, it is awesome to see you. Yes, I remember. And I see you're already closing land deals, which makes me even happier. Isn't that amazing, Michael? I love it.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jim.
Love it. Keep on rocking.
Good to see you, Jay.
Good to see you, Michael.
Yeah, Share the Love is great. I think it's good to have a mission that gives you a reason to keep going.
Greatly appreciated. I learned a lot from Jim's group as well. And can you go ahead and share your Facebook group?
Sure. I wasn't going to, but since you asked me to.
Oh, yeah.
Hard to type, so if I make a mistake here, you'll understand. I'm getting better. My arm's getting stronger.
We all continue to learn. I'm taking additional courses myself right now, but hop in and join Jim's group there as well.
I loved it that you're doing some stuff with Eddie Speed, another friend of mine.
Yeah, he is great. I told him that you said hi, and always continuing to learn.
I love being around these people that are smarter than me, Michael. I love being around you. I learn stuff from you all the time. How many of you guys are grateful for Michael Robertson?
I appreciate it. And I appreciate, we're all teammates. I appreciate everybody. And you do have an inner circle as well.
Yeah, I just put it in there.
Okay, great.
Well, yeah, you're in it with me. So thank you. Oh,
yeah, I appreciate that. So it's been a great session. Anyone have any additional questions? I appreciate Jim. I continue to learn from him. And I hope with the wraps here, we continue to share more in our group about that. look at some deals that we haven't been able to do or we think that we could not possibly do. So I think we can all expand our market and many times offer way more than our competitors.
Make some deals.
Hey, Jim, I had one more question before
Yeah.
signing off. And thanks again for sharing what you did. Do you have a good resource for us to go find a template or an example of a contract of a finance land deal?
No, but you know what? I would just keep it so simple. How do you guys use a simple contract in simple language? That's my favorite kind. My contract's a page and a half. And all I would do is just write the terms on the front page. And I would try to write it like at an 8th grade level, because what happens is a confused mind will always say no. So if you make it like all this legalese and all this really complicated stuff, they might say, I need my lawyer to review it because I don't understand it. So I would just write it in plain English. So it would say purchase price, $200,000, down payment, $5,000, remainder balance paid, 200 payments at whatever that number was that Sam Ricci got me earlier.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And then anything regarding the title being in that contract, let's say I was the one that was selling the land and accepted a finance term contract. Would I hold on to the title until all the payments are made? That's how it typically would work.
You could, that would be contract for deed, right?
Okay.
So you could, or you could do a lease with an option, by the way. So there's 3 ways to do it. CFD, contract for deed, lease with an option, or you could actually transfer the deed. If you're getting into large enough down payment, I would be comfortable transferring the deed. If something goes south for some reason, you could take the property back and sell it again with a second down payment.
Understood.
I've had to do that on property before. I don't like doing it, but it's nice to get a second down payment when something goes wrong.
Assuming you would have to engage the title company to accept
Yes,
something, right?
I would, or a local lawyer in your local market. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Jim, I want to thank you so very much. We all learned a lot. It was great to hear about Share the Love. And I think we are all very thankful for you today.
We're grateful for you too, because I believe in land flipping. Like, I think rehabbing and everything, the margins are getting really tight. It's a lot of work, a lot of moving parts to manage contractors. Why not just buy the land, flip it, and make your money? Love it. So I'm glad you teach people this.
And as we continue to learn and add, and when you drive around the city, the biggest buildings are the banks on the corner. And basically we can participate in that, pay $475 a month, get in 1,000 and make the 608 the spread, be the bank.
You know, it's good cash flow. Cash flow is a good thing.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it, Jim. We'll see you soon. Thank you all, teammates and everyone. And we do have another Zoom session in about 4.5 hours. And tonight we're just going to go over Deal Lab and review any of your deals. But
Love it.
thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.